Hey, it's Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to the Leadership Toolkit. My name is Mike. I will be your host. As you know, we spend a lot of time. This is the definitive leadership growth podcast, as I've self-titled that. So I go all over the world. I have the opportunity to interview amazing leaders from different verticals of business, leaders, managers, entrepreneurs, speakers, authors. And what we do is we have great conversations, organic conversations, so that we have the opportunity to learn what some of their successes are, maybe what some of their failures are, what are the walls that they hit so that you don't have to. And so as I go through and experience some of these just awesome conversations, I'm so excited to bring them to you. And I've got an absolutely phenomenal guest today. Today I've got Kute Blackson. He's the best-selling author of You Are the One and The Magic of Surrender. He's a renowned speaker. He's a transformational leadership coach. He's a leading voice in personal development. He's been featured on Larry King Live. He's been featured on Dr. Drew, Fox and Friends. He is the mindfulness guru billionaires go to for advice. I had to actually read that one because it's a mouthful. He's absolutely phenomenal. That's quoted by Inc. magazine. So I bring to you today, Kute Blackson. Kute, thank you so much for joining me on the Leadership Toolkit today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, if you would share a bit of your background, I'm really fascinated. I did a little bit of research on you prior to having you on the show, and I've seen some videos. Love the way you speak. Love the way you share from the heart. And I would just love if you would share with the audience here a bit of your background. What's your story? How did you get into leadership? How did you get into this, personal development, coaching, and all the things that you're doing?
Yeah, I was born in Ghana, West Africa. My father's from Ghana. My mother's Japanese. I grew up in London. So you could say I'm from everywhere and nowhere. And as a young boy, I never really felt like I fit in. I never really felt like I belonged. And I think that drove me to ask questions to find a sense of identity. Like, who am I? Where do I belong? Where do I come from? And I didn't feel like I was black. I didn't feel like I was white. I didn't feel like I was Japanese. I didn't feel like I was British. I didn't feel like I was anything. And so that started an intense quest to try to discover and find my identity. Some would say that my childhood was a bit unusual in that I thought my childhood was normal, that everyone had the same childhood as me. But as I grew up, I started to realize, it was a bit different. In that, my first memories as a young boy, around 6, 8, 7, was seeing a crippled woman crawling on the floor. She picks up the gravel, the sand that this man walks on, wipes it on her face and stands up. You could call that a miracle. I grew up seeing blind people see and deaf people hear, and people stand up out of wheelchairs. The same man would look at a person in a wheelchair and say, stand up. Like, why are you in this wheelchair? And he would put his hands on them and they would be healed. I grew up seeing a person come in with crutches, and this was with my own eyes, no social media, no cameras. Person would come in with crutches and he would say, hey, throw your crutches away. And she would say, I haven't walked in 5 years. And he would put his hands on her and she'd be healed. Some people would say, come on, Kute, this stuff's not really real. I don't know if it was real or not. I just know what I saw with my own eyes as a young boy through my teens up until 18. This man was my father. He was considered the miracle man of Africa. He built 300 churches in Ghana, West Africa, built a huge church in London. To be honest, my father was a very spiritual man, a very mystical man. Went to India in the 60s, had a kind of awakening experience, came back, kept his churches. So by the time I was born, I grew up in a very spiritual environment. My mother was Buddhist, believe it or not, being Japanese. And so I grew up meditating with my mother, going to church with my father and mother. And it was a sort of just unusual upbringing. And so from age 8, I was basically thrown in the audience and gave my first, that's when my speaking career began. And I gave my first speech in front of my father's audience in front of 4,000 to 5,000 people. Age 14, I was ordained as a minister. And you could say my entire life was set out for me. One day, my father announces to his congregation, my son is taking over. He's my successor. And the truth is, everybody was happy but me, because something deep in my soul, something in my own gut that was unexplainable, I just felt that this wasn't my path. I just felt that this wasn't my destiny. This wasn't my life purpose. And I was just too afraid to speak my truth to my father. And like many of us, I allowed fear to hijack my voice. My fear was, if I dared to be who I am, if I dared to speak my truth, if I dared to be authentic, then I will lose my father's love. Then I will be alone. I will be outcast. I'll be abandoned. And so I said nothing. And as a 14-year-old kid, that took me into a tremendous turmoil, a tremendous questioning, a tremendous, you could say, a deep depression. And from 14 to 18, I did a lot of soul searching, and I tried honestly to fit myself into a box of becoming who I thought I needed to be in order to get love and validation and approval. And I became miserable in the process. Meanwhile, from around age 8, 12, 13, 14, I was this kid sneaking into my father's office, and he had literally a library of thousands of books, all the sort of spiritual self-help books, everyone from Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, Krishnamurti, the Eastern Mystics, Osho, Ernest Holmes, metaphysicians, you name it, he had these books. And so I became Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, Marianne Williamson, Deepak Chopra. So as a young kid, I became obsessed with trying to understand my purpose, understand, like, why am I here? What's the purpose of life? Is the purpose just to wake up, go to work, make money, and then have some children, and then buy a house, and buy a car, and go on a vacation a year, and then die? Like, surely there has to be more than that. And this became an obsession as a young kid, as I was trying to figure out, what the hell am I doing here? I'm going down this path. My entire life is basically set out for me. It didn't feel real. And as I looked into my future, I saw that I could take the expected path, the path that was set out for me by my father and the world. I could be successful. I take it on, be successful, take it to another level. I'm my father's successor. But as I projected into age 20, age 30, age 40, age 50, age 60, I just knew that something in my soul was dying, because it wasn't my truth. It wasn't my authenticity. And so I felt at 18, 17, actually, I felt something in my soul calling me in a completely different direction. I felt my soul, like this calling in my soul saying, go to America. You might ask, why America? Because all of the authors that I read about, the self-help gurus, Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins, Marianne Williamson, Deepak Chopra, Mark Victor Hansen, Jack Canfield, they all lived in Southern California. And so a light bulb sort of turned on as a teenager, where I thought, wow, there's a whole different way that I could potentially inspire people and make a difference in people's life that didn't have to be through the structure of religion. Nothing wrong with that. I just felt called in a different direction. And I knew what I had to do, but I was terrified, to be honest. And I think when your soul, and I think this is something important for leaders, there will be many times where you feel an intuitive guidance of your soul, of your spirit, of a deep internal knowing. And you will feel it, and it will make no sense to your mind. When I was guided to come to America, it made absolutely no sense to my mind. I had no university degree. I had no contacts in the US. I didn't know one person. I had no father support, no family support. The only person that supported me was my mother. No career prospects. All I knew was I wanted to come to America because my soul was guiding me, and I wanted to make a difference in people's lives and inspire people and go into this field of self-help and personal growth and spirituality. That's all I knew. And what I want to say to leaders is, when your soul guides you, it often will not make sense to your mind, because the inner guidance that you are being given, the inner guidance, the inner intuition is arising from the deeper dimension of your being that is beyond your mind, that is beyond your logic, that is beyond your conditioning, that is beyond your experience, that is beyond your ego, that is beyond your personality. This deeper guidance is arising from the unconditioned dimension of your being that is not limited to your past experience. And so that guidance that you receive as a leader, as a visionary, will be beyond your current level of knowing. It often will not make sense to your mind. And the fact that it doesn't make sense to your mind is usually a sign that you are on the right track, because you are not supposed to know the entire path. You're not supposed to know the entire future. You're not supposed to know exactly what's going to happen. The goal, the vision, the mission that you've been given is often beyond your current capacity because it's meant to take you on a journey of expansion. It's meant to force you to grow and expand beyond your current capacity so that you can grow and evolve into becoming that leader that who is capable, who has developed the mental, the emotional, spiritual, shall we say, soul force that is capable of fulfilling the vision that you can give them. So I had no idea. All I knew was go to America. And what I have found in my life is whenever you follow your soul, and you don't compromise your soul. To me, this is part of what true leadership is. Whenever you dare to follow your soul, you will always, and I will say always, end up in the right place at the right time with the right people doing the right thing, even though the pathway that you take may not be the one that you most expect. And often, if you share your vision as a leader with those around you, most people will not understand it. Most people may not even support it. Some people might even oppose it. Some people are going to think you're crazy. And so if you waste your energy trying to explain your vision, your goals, your dreams, your desires, the vision that you've been given, the calling that's in your heart, you will waste your time trying to convince people that aren't able to see it. But the truth is, they weren't given the vision. You were given the vision. And that's why you're the leader. And I think leadership is the willingness to be obedient and to listen to the deeper calling of your soul, despite external circumstances, external feedback, regardless of what people say, and regardless of your own ego, mental chit-chatter. And so that's what I did. I said yes to the calling. And that's what prompted me to have the conversation with my father, which was terrifying. Long story short, had the conversation with my father. Longer story short, ended up an 17-year-old kid, ended up winning. Mike, let me tell you, let me repeat. Winning a green card in the green card lottery.
Really?
That's what enabled me, with nothing but a dream and $800 to come to the US and follow a dream. You could say, I was just following. A true leader is willing to follow the guidance of the soul, not the conditioned direction of the ego. A leader is willing to submit to something deeper than their mind and their ego. That is when you are truly being guided, and that is when you are being led, and that is when you can truly lead. And so that's what enabled me to come to the US as an 18-year-old kid and find mentors and teachers and authors and all these people I'd been reading about as a kid. They were my heroes. Sure. The soccer players weren't my heroes. The self-help gurus were my heroes. And I went and found them and studied with them as a 18-year-old Kute in their seminars and shined their shoes and drove their cars and harassed them until they would spend time with me. And it was through that experience that I learned. And then, long story short, that led me to travel the world, led me to Thailand to study with some monks, led me to walk the Camino, a 900-kilometer trek in northern Spain that was popularized by St. Francis of Assisi. And that led me to India, where I had a kind of awakening experience. And based on that, I came back as a young man to America, and I started coaching people. Honestly, no idea. This is before coaching was a thing. This is before social media was a thing. There were no coaches. There were the only guy was like Tony Robbins, and there was Zig Ziglar, and there was Dennis Waitley, but there was no coaching field. And so I didn't have any you could say guidance and templates. There was just this desire in my heart because I felt so free within myself. I felt a level. I had no money in my bank account, Mike. I broke up with my girlfriend. I was almost homeless. I barely had a car that worked, but I just felt such a deep sense of freedom in my being, the kind of freedom that was not dependent on external factors. And I think that's what true leadership is, when you access a dimension of freedom within, where you are not in a conditional relationship with life, and the external factors are not determining who you are and how you're going to be and how you're going to love. That is true freedom. You look at Mandela was truly free. He was in a prison for 26 years,
sure,
but the prison didn't define him. And as a result, he transformed that prison into something else. He accessed a dimension of freedom of his being that wasn't dependent on the external. And I think that's what it takes to be a true leader, because then you won't compromise what's true. And so I felt such a deep sense of freedom that one thing led to the next. And to be honest, people started coming up to me and like, hey, young man, like, what's your deal? Why are you so happy? Why do you feel so free? What's the key? What's the secret? And slowly I just started talking to people. And before you knew it, it just started evolving into something deeper and deeper. And I created my own methodology of working with people that I called uncoaching. And
Uncoaching?
Yes. And I created a process. And as a result of that process, 20 plus years ago now, my first client that I uncoached was in 2000. And so 25 years ago. And as a result, it just evolved. And that person's life changed. Next person's life changed. And before you knew it, referrals started coming in. Before you knew it, people started coming from around the world. So I didn't have a plan, you could say, in terms of some grand plan. It was just an evolution that unfolded from a deep desire to serve people. The primary thing that I had, Mike, was I just wanted to be of service. And I think about leadership. And when I think about leadership, I think that one of the fundamental tenets of leadership is someone who is willing to be of service. As a leader, you are not here to serve yourself. You are here to serve a mission, a vision, the divine, the world, your community, your family, the next generations. You are here to be in service to something bigger than yourself. And I think that's what true leadership is. The first stage of life is where we are totally self-absorbed, you could say, and we are just in survival, right? So much of the world and society and the media want to keep us in a stage of survival where we're just trying to figure out, how do I pay my bills? How do I pay my rent? And as a result, we're just in that level of surviving, right? That's one level. It's hard to think about anything beyond yourself when you're stuck in just survival.
Sure.
That's level one.
Let me jump in here because you got a lot to unpack,
anyway,
man.
You got me fired up.
I love it. You're going, and I'm like, you got me fired up. Are you kidding me? I'll let you go for another. We could stay here for hours, and I just listen to you speak. So here's a few things, because I always want to sort of recap for the audience, because I encourage people, like, watch with a pen in hand, watch with a pencil in hand. You're gonna get some wisdom here, and so. I'm going back in time here for a second, but there's some things that just blow my mind. You knew, and I think a lot of people know this, and we tuck it down inside us. You started and you said, look, by the time I was 14 years old, I was getting this delivered to me, and I knew that wasn't my direction, right? And you were soul searching. I think so often people, we do that. We hear what our soul wants. We hear, for myself, like you hear God's calling or the Holy Spirit speaking to you, and you go, hey, I got to go this direction. But then we tuck it down inside us because, well, that's not the way that I'm supposed to head, or that's not the path. When you were talking about that, and you were saying, hey, in your soul, you said when your soul guides you, it may not make sense to your mind. And where I go, and I'm very much a man of faith as well, you know, where scripture says, like, a man's heart plans his way, right? Our heart plans our direction, but the Lord determines our steps. And so it's like when our soul, when that spirit in us, when we're being called to something that is divine, as you said, it's shocking to me that during that short period as a young man, by the time you're 17, 18 years old, you're going, well, hey, I'm going to America, and you knew this thing. One of the things, and I think you said this, but I just want to recap it. You said this a couple times. You said, I knew what I had to do, and it was scary.
Terrifying. Sometimes people think that when you find your purpose in life, you know, to be honest, a lot of the self-help books sell this romanticized idea because they want to sell books, right? This romanticized idea of what it's like when you find your purpose. The angels appear and the violins play and everything is just in flow. And the truth is, often when you really uncover your true purpose, that's when the real challenges begin. Because now, as you take a step in the direction of your purpose, you have to face the soul tests and the challenges. And those tests are not sent to break you. Those soul tests are sent to reveal you. Those soul tests are sent to refine you. Those soul tests are the fire that is sent to cook you. It's like the divine chef is cooking you and refining you in the pot, in the heat, to strengthen you so that you develop the soulful. That 26 years, 27 years of Mandela in prison could have broken him,
Sure.
but it made him stronger. And so many times when we're like, oh, this is my purpose, and then all the challenges start, and the challenges start, and the challenges start, and this falls apart, and that falls apart, and you're like, because if you're saying, I want to be a leader, I want to be strong and powerful and impact, then universe, God is like, well, okay, you sure you want to? It's like saying, I want to be the heavyweight champion of the world. Well, really? Then you're going to have to lift some weights. You know,
you're going to have to get punched.
You're going to have to get punched. You're going to have to lift some weights. You're going to have to be strong. You're going to have to face those challenges. And so many times the mistake people make is when those challenges start, those soul tests start, they think they're doing something wrong and they give up. But it's not the time to give up. It's the time to go all in and to commit and to surrender completely. And it's the total surrender to the vision that you've been given that activates grace, that activates the deeper dimension of the true power and potential that is inside of you. And that's the magic. When I look at anyone great, truly great, Jesus, Bruce Lee, Muhammad Ali, Mandela, Martin Luther King, you know, whoever, an Oprah, great in different ways, right? Great in different dimensions.
Absolutely.
Mahatma Gandhi, right? On some level, all of these people, they were given a vision. Some of them felt a calling. Some of them resisted the calling. Even Martin Luther King resisted the calling. But there came a point where they all had to surrender themselves deeply to the calling that they were given. And when they did, even if it didn't make sense to their mind, even if they didn't know, how am I going to actually accomplish that? When they truly surrendered and they didn't give up, surrender is not giving up. When they truly surrendered themselves, that's when I think they gave themselves over to something greater than themselves. They gave themselves over to the mission, to the calling. And that's when God was able to use them. That's when life was able to manifest through them. And that's when they transcended their own human ego limitations and tapped into another dimension of power that was able to flow through them. And the miraculous happened. The magic happened. You know, because a life like Mandela, you can't sit there in a goal-setting workshop and plan that life, right? No. A life like Gandhi, Martin Luther King, you can't sit there, read a self-help book and just let me plan the 10 ways I'm going to be Martin Luther King. That's just grace flowing. But the grace doesn't flow if you're half in, you're half out, and when you give up. The grace flowed, the magic flowed, the miracles flowed because he surrendered himself completely. And in that total, you could say, dedication of himself, despite the challenges. And, you know, Martin Luther King was shot at, he was spat at, he was imprisoned. He didn't let that stop him. And so the soul tests are the tests that are sent to you to prepare you for your mission, that prepare you to be the leader.
So let me ask you, soul tests, and I love the comparisons. I love your fire and passion. I'm on the other side of the screen here and I'm like, let's go. How do you know, if you're somebody and I've felt this from a young age, people give me a hard time sometimes. I'm like, I belong behind a microphone. I know this is what I'm supposed to be. It's amplifying the voice. It's doing this. So when you, how do you know, or is there a pinpoint, or is there an action to know that, okay, this is a test and I got to persevere. I got to keep going versus this is the wrong direction and maybe I should look somewhere else. Is there some piece of advice? And you might be like, nope. I mean, because I know some of that's going to come from within us, but is there some piece of advice that I can say, hey, I know this is where I'm called and where I'm headed versus, nah, this isn't a test, it's a stop.
I would say deep down, if we're honest, you know. And many times people often say, I don't really know. I'm not really sure. I'm confused. This is often the ego's way of resisting. We know many times. If I said to someone, if I put a gun to your head right now, is it a yes or is it no? Oh, yes, absolutely. We know, right? We know. If I had your child and I was about to throw them off a bridge, tell me the truth. Oh yeah, no, I know, I know what to do. We know, but often we don't have the courage to be honest with ourselves deeply about what we know, because sometimes we're afraid that if I tell the truth about the knowing, then what will the consequences be? If I tell the truth, then that means I have to let go. That means I have to give up. That means I have to step in. And so often we're afraid of telling the truth. So step one, I would say, then I want to share some things specifically,
Yes.
is we have to be willing to tell yourself the absolute truth, the ruthless truth, the authentic truth about what you feel and about what you know. But often we're afraid. We're afraid of, oh, what's going to happen if I tell myself the truth? Would that mean if I acknowledge that this relationship is no longer working for me? Well, what does that mean? Does that mean it's a divorce? What does that mean? And so often we're afraid to tell ourselves the truth because we're afraid of the consequences. So I would say, first thing, acknowledge the truth of what you know and feel by taking the pressure off of yourself of having to take any action. Because sometimes the fear of, oh, if I tell myself the truth, then I have to do something about it. And the fear of what we have to do, the consequence, sometimes blocks the ego from actually being honest. And the job of the ego, and we all have an ego, is to protect you from getting hurt and to reinforce its existence. So the ego naturally often creates like a sense of a smoke screen of confusion. And so if you take the pressure off of yourself of having to take any action, then it frees you up to just acknowledge the truth. You know what? I'm not happy with my job right now. This is not my true purpose. I'm not happy with I hate my job. Okay, that's the truth. You don't have to leave because maybe you got 4 children and a family and there's responsibilities, but just start by acknowledging the truth. You know, as the old quote says, the truth will set you free. It might first piss you off, but the truth will set you free. When you can get into relationship with the truth, that is the beginning of transformation. There is no transformation without truth. The truth is the start. For me, truth is real prayer. Truth is real spiritual practice. And so to kind of another angle into your question.
Yes.
If I'm doing something, how do I know whether to keep going or not? Here are a few reasons that I have found why things don't manifest, that before you give up, you have to look at. Number one, if you're trying to manifest something and make something happen and you're following a dream, you're pursuing a dream and it's not happening, 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 what's wrong? Number one, consider that the thing that you're trying to make happen, the goal, the dream, the desire, is possibly not in alignment with your highest path, is not in alignment with your soul's highest potential, is not in alignment with what God wants for you, right? So you're trying to make this thing happen over here, but because it's not completely aligned with what is highest for your soul and your path and your destiny, it's not manifesting. And so that doesn't mean something is wrong. It's just the universe is kind of course correcting you. God is course correcting you, trying to make you go, hey, you're a bit off course here. And so sometimes things not manifesting is actually grace. It's the love of the divine saying, hey, come back to truth. What we tend to do is we try and push and force things to happen that are maybe not meant to happen, and we make ourselves miserable in the process. Instead, we should step back. We should self-reflect. We should meditate. We should pray. We should just connect and listen more deeply so that we can receive the inner true guidance as to, okay, what is true here? What is really aligned here? What is really authentic here? And I think when we can remove our ego, step back and cultivate a sense of deeper listening, then we will receive the signs, the intuitions, the guidance, the clarity of how we're meant to proceed. So the first reason why things tend to not manifest is it may not be aligned. The second reason is it just may not be time yet. Everything has a season and everything has a timing under the sun. And so many times we want to go to the beach when it's snowing in our bikini and swim shorts, and you can, but it's going to be freezing and miserable. But then when it's snowing, Many times when it's snowing, we want to go to the beach. When it's hot, we want to go to the snow and ski. We got our timing off. Often when we're living gripped by ego and conditioning and wounds and personality from our human selves, we just want what we want and we want it now. We're not living in sync with the natural flow of life and the universe. Sure. We're not living in sync with divine timing, essentially. And so everything has a rhythm and everything has a cycle. There is the summer, there is the autumn, there is the winter, there is the spring. So what we tend to do as human beings is we tend to force something to be, and we tend to force certain timings to be that it may not be timing. If you're a woman and you're pregnant, it's like, you're 10 weeks pregnant. I want my kid and I want my kid now. Sorry. There's a timing. It's about 40 some weeks, 38 weeks, 40 weeks. Right. There's a natural rhythm. You put the cake in the oven. I don't know how to bake a cake, Mike. I put the cake in the oven. It's been 1 minute. I want my cake now. It doesn't work that way. You got to let it bake. You got to let it sit. You got to let it grow. You got to let that embryo gestate in the mother's womb. There is a timing for something to become ripe. And so when the mango is ripe, it will fall. The problem is, because we want what we want and we want it now, we're impatient. Many of us were eating unripe fruit in our life, wondering why things taste so sour. So we have to sort of step back, trust divine timing. The third reason, maybe the most important, I kind of see life metaphorically as a school. It's a spiritual school. You know, okay. We are souls. We are here in the school of life, and everyone is our teacher. You know, you're my teacher. My kid is my teacher. My wife is my teacher. Everything is teaching us about ourselves. I think everything is giving us an opportunity to become more authentic, become more true, to learn lessons, and to ultimately get closer to our divine nature, get closer to God, get closer to the divine. And so I think one of the reasons I have seen that things do not happen, even if you've been trying and trying and trying, is consider you have not learned the lessons that you need to learn where you are with who you're with. You have not learned the lessons where you are with who you're with. And if life is a school, all lessons are repeated until learned. And so if you're trying to manifest something and it's not happening, you can force and push and push. But instead of doing that, step back and ask yourself these questions. Before you give up, also, what is my soul seeking to learn in this situation? What are the lessons in this business situation that I'm resisting learning? Why do I keep attracting the same type of business partner? Why do I keep attracting the same kind of romantic relationship? What does this show me about myself that I don't want to see? Because if you can learn the lesson. See, here's the thing. You can get divorced and run away from your partner. Then you'll manifest someone else. They'll look different. They're going to have a different name. Instead of Mike, they're going to be John. Instead of John, they're going to be Pete. Instead of Pete, they're going to be Sam. But you will meet the same dynamics and pattern over and over and over again, because really, wherever you go, there you are. And so if you're in a situation and it's not unfolding, before you give up, step back and go, what do I need to learn here that I haven't learned? Because when you can learn the lesson where you are with who you're with, that is the key that unlocks the lock to the next level of your life. And if after all of that, you're like, yeah, I've done all of that, still not working, it may be time to realize, you know what? It's not really giving up. It's just course correction, that I have to let this go, this thing, this dream, this idea, so that I can surrender and make room for what is truly mine. Many times as human beings, especially leaders, because as leaders, we're strong people. Sure. You know, we have vision, and we have the drive, which is beautiful. But if that drive isn't surrendered to soul, then it can get in the way of the higher flow of life. And so many times we think we know what we want, and we hold on to this idea of what we think we want. It's like, I want a peanut. Mike, I want this peanut. It's amazing. This peanut's incredible. I want this peanut. Damn it, I'm gonna make this peanut happen because I'm gonna just will myself to this peanut. You can create a powerful, amazing life. I would say you can create a good life with your willpower and your ego, but it will not be a great life. You can create, let's get spiritual for a second. You can create a good life, but not a God life. You can create a nice life, but not a truly great life. It will be limited in some way. And what Absolutely. I would say is, whatever you create from the level of the ego will always be limited to something, some experience of your past. But whatever you truly create in alignment with your soul, in divine connection, there is no limits to what can be created. Because when you're dealing with the divine, whatever that means to you, I don't want to assume what religion people might be. But when you're dealing with the divine, you're dealing with an infinite possibility. You're dealing with the infinite versus the finite. And it's a different kind of mathematics. When you're dealing with a human, it's 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2 is 4, 4 + 4 is 8. But when you've surrendered yourself as a leader to the bigger calling, like Mandela and Jesus and Martin Luther King and Mother Teresa, it's a divine math. Then 4 × 4 can equal whatever is necessary for the fulfillment of what needs to unfold. That's the miraculous. That's the magic of life that happens when we truly surrender. And so many times we want this peanut, but I want this peanut. But we don't realize that God is trying to give you a peanut factory, a peanut farm. But damn it, I want this peanut. And we can't even see that. It's like trying to give you a peanut factory and a farm, but you're so holding onto this peanut that you're not even open to the next level. And
you're so fixated on the thing that's in front of you, you can't see all the other things that are around you.
Exactly.
I tend to recap. I want to recap this because you went through some really good stuff here, Kute. And here's a couple things before we get to the end. I got sidetracked right away. You got me all fired up and listening. So a few things. If you're listening to the audio podcast or if you're watching later, a couple things that I would encourage you. One, connect with Kute on Instagram. It's instagram.com/Kute Blackson, KuteBlackson. Also, you can connect, check out his website, KuteBlackson.com. He's got all kinds of information there, great videos, lots of just a wealth of wisdom stored on your website. And then if people want to connect with you, book time with you, do those things, I imagine they can reach out that way. So I always want to make mention of that before I get we're 35 minutes into the show and I'm like, oh, by the way, if you wanted to connect, and I'll have all that in the show notes. But there's a couple things that I want to hone in on. And I got already a whole back page worth of notes here that I'm sitting here. I jot all over the place and doodle my notes down. But one of the questions I said, hey, how do you know if, and like we were saying, the question was, how do you know if you should give up, or maybe this is the wrong direction? What if this isn't my calling? Things aren't working. And I tried to distill this down. You nailed 3 topics or 3 specific items. And I want to add one to this. And I think you might agree with me. You said, number one, you got to have the grace to step back, remove your ego, listen, and find, is this goal is where I'm headed in alignment? The alignment pieces. Is it in alignment with where I'm supposed to be going? Secondly, you talked about timing. And I think you gave really good examples of what timing is. The third, and I love this, is you have to have that soul of a learner. You have to be a constant sponge, and you have to be constantly willing to learn. And so you ask the question, what do I need to learn from this? And through hearing all of that, one of the things that I'm sitting there, because it's so hard when we love something. And I've been here myself. Like I've lived life and I've got the thing that I'm supposed to be doing this. And I built this thing, or I built this website, or I built this blog site, or I've built this community or group of people, or I built this thing at work. And we feel so attached to that thing we built. But one of the things that I'm hearing when you're saying, hey, if it's not in alignment, the timing's not right, you haven't learned what you need to learn. The sort of asterisk, and this is my perception, so you correct me if I'm wrong, is what if that's just that's just a piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
That's just that's a piece of the learning. That's a piece of the alignment. You had to go through. Sometimes we have to go through those steps of building the thing, whatever that thing may be. Like you have to build the bridge to get to the other side of the river, right? And
Yeah,
so
you had to go through that failed relationship or divorce to learn the lessons to become the person that was ready for your wife or for your
sure.
husband.
Well, and what happens is if you fall in love in the meantime and you go, no, but I'm supposed to be a bridge builder. And it's like, no, you're not supposed to be a bridge builder. You're just supposed to use that skill to get to the other side of where you're headed.
For sure.
And so that's one of the things that sort of I'm hearing. I mean, it's just so good. I have so many things written down in so many different
one
directions.
last thing I just want to add real quick
absolutely.
is, again, like, should I give up? Should I not give up? If you feel you've done everything in your power, you've answered these questions, you've done everything, and it's like still not working. It's just not working. It's not working. It's blocked. It's blocked. It's blocked. Closed door, closed door, closed door, closed door, closed door. You got to feel like, am I trying to force something to be something that it's not? Because there's a difference between force and effort. And many times, like, we have this idea of what we think should be, and we try to impose that onto life rather than let me feel like, oh yeah, that the river is flowing this way. Maybe there's waves and it's still a bit choppy and I have to swim and put some effort, but the river is flowing in this direction. If you become still enough, you will feel the river of life moving in a direction versus I'm like, there's no wave and I'm trying to make a wave, or I'm going in the opposite direction. And I think that's something you have to feel. If there's continual block after block after block after block after block after block, and it's been 4 decades, it's been 30 years, and it's nothing but blocks, and it's just, this might be the universe showing you. This might be God saying, hey, time to let go of this idea of what you think you should be doing, because maybe there's something else.
Sure.
Right? So I think we have to feel for that, right? Because if the doors just stay closed, no matter what you do, that could be a sign like, this is not it. This is not it.
No, that's good advice. So I'm curious too, as we're kind of coming to the back half of this here. I've got a couple of things that I want. There's a ton. I'm going to have you back on the show because there's still a ton of other direction I want to go. But something that I'm curious of, because you talked early on, you said, hey, I went to America, and you mentioned a lot of certainly the just grandfathers of, or fathers, grandfathers of self-development, personal growth, people that I'm a fan of, like you said, Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins and a lot of these people. I'm curious from where you sit now, because fast forward 25 years, give or take. And for somebody like myself, like I said, and out of respect for you and our time together, I went and did a little research on Kute, right? I said, okay, who's this guy coming on the show and so forth? And it not only inspiring and humbling to say, well, wow, Kute's coming on the show. Like, this is cool. I'm curious, as you evolve, as time goes on and you've learned the things and the timing changes and you've talked a lot about your direction, who are the people that you look to now to continue your own personal growth? Or is it some of the same people? Are there different people now? Is there more of a set of ideals or that you look for?
Beautiful question.
Can you expand on that for us?
At every stage of my evolution, there have been different teachers based on my level of consciousness. By the time I was 18, I read 800 books in personal growth. They served me greatly. At this stage of my life, my teachers now, my wife, because if you're married, you can read all the books you want. You can quote all the scriptures you want. You can make all the videos and be motivational and what have you and sound so intelligent and brilliant, which I'm sure we all are. I am, you are, we are. But in relationship, I see relationship as actually a spiritual path in and of itself, because relationship will show you where you're at. And I would humbly say that my wife is, without trying, is my teacher, because in the relationship, I see all the ways that, you know what, I need to be more patient. I can read about patience. Oh, the power of being patient. 7 keys. Okay.
Tune into a podcast. Tell them how to be patient.
I make a podcast with Mike. Mike, here's 7 keys to be more patient. And then it's like, oh, I need to be a bit more patient with my wife. I need to, I need to be a bit more graceful. I need to be more compassionate. Oh, yeah. Okay. So in relationship, she shows me, and in all the ways that she is kind and loving in her nature, she teaches me without even teaching me. In all the ways she gave me patience and maybe I didn't deserve it, she teaches me. So I would say, honestly, my wife is today my greatest teacher, along with my son, who is about 2 years old and 2 months, teaches me every day in such profound ways, the simplicity of life, the being happy for no reason, the curiosity in every moment, the non-judgmentalness, the profoundly forgiving nature of just like being forgiving every moment. It's like, oh, I lost my cool, and he just forgot about it next second. It's like, he teaches me so much, and just being fully present in life. I learned so much from him, just watching him and observing him. And so at this stage, I don't see my spirituality in learning as something separate from life. Oh, I go to the temple, I go to the church, I go to a seminar, I go over here and I learn from this teacher. More and more now, Mike, the separation is closing from life itself is my spiritual path, and learning how to love and be love is the real teaching. And this I'm learning, and so it's no longer just in a book or through a teacher. It's just in life now, in relationship now. And
Sure.
It's this is it. Every moment I see fatherhood as a spiritual path, because as you might know, it shows me all of my selfishness that I thought I was over that. I was like, no, I'm not. It shows me it's an ego selfishness purification process, of being a father. And that is more than any book could teach me, or any guru could teach me or tell me. And so that's really where I learn in relation now to life. And to be honest, the connection to the divine, the connection to God, there's a quote, seek ye first the kingdom of God and everything will be given to you. And so more and more we look outside, this and that, and that, versus like go within. And so there's a continual process of connecting to the knowing that is inside of me.
I think that's a really, it's a really good answer. It's a really heartfelt answer. And I think that, I will tell you, as I get older, I hate to admit it, right? In my head, I'm still like 16 years old, but as I get older, it's the same thing. We start to see these things around us, and we learn from every person we interact with. We learn from, I love what you said about your son, that, you learn from him, because we look through these fresh eyes. That kids are such good teachers. And I think so often we don't talk enough about that. right?
Yeah,
As
you don't.
business people, as leaders, kids are good teachers because they teach us of all the things that we forgot. Like they just know how to be happy because they're happy. They
Yeah,
just know how to be joyful. They
yeah.
know how to make friends,
They don't
right?
need a
It's
reason.
yeah,
Don't
you
need
don't
a
need a
reason.
reason. Like well, making friends. Like as we get older and teenage years, and then on to adults, we get jaded, and it's like, well, is this person going to mesh with me? Do they have the same beliefs? Do they have this?
Yeah,
Kids
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
kids go out on the playground when they're in kindergarten, and they're just like, hey man, want to play?
Or
Like
they just stop playing.
yeah, and they just start playing. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. No, I think it's that's a beautiful thing, Kute. Beautiful
yeah,
thing that, and I think that's something that people need to hear. So when you're, and I know this is a business and leadership podcast, I'm telling you, you've got to listen and learn this sort of from the wisdom that he's speaking, because you just be open and you
yeah.
have the opportunity to learn from everybody around you,
You know,
everything in
you know
life.
what I would say, business and leadership.
Yeah,
I've achieved a few things in my life.
yeah,
I won't
a
say
few.
all of them, but some interesting things. But what I realized more and more, my mother passed away in 2017 of stomach cancer. This inspired my book, The Magic of Surrender. What I realized when the doctor said, you're going to die, there's nothing else we can do.
Mm-hmm.
In that moment, all of my accomplishments, all of my achievements, everything I was pursuing, all of my ambitions, the only regret I really had, and this is the truth, the only regret I had was not spending more time with my mother. Because, and we hear it, it's like a cliche, yeah, you never know. But
Cliche till it's not.
in that moment, and sometimes the only way to learn is you got to learn by the experience of losing. And in that moment, I realized the only regret I have is not spending more time with my mom, because the truth is I thought I had time. And it made me, I thought I had time. The trips I planned to take with her, but I didn't have time because I was running my business and doing events, and I didn't have time to go back for Christmas. I didn't have time to go back for birthday. I didn't have time because I was too busy. And I got to spend a year with my mother. I would fly back and forth from LA to London to see her for 1 week a month for a year. And what turned out as the worst year, started out as the worst year of my life, ended up being the best year of my life, because I got to just sit with my mother for a week every month, and we would take a walk in the park. All the things I thought were a waste of time,
Right.
just sit and have her make tea. I didn't have time for tea because I got to save the world, got to inspire people. And in that moment, I realized, oh, wow, now that she's gone, what I would give to just sit and waste time with my mother. Mm-hmm. And so as business leaders, I would also encourage that you don't lose sight on what you're doing, and you don't lose sight on the purpose, and you don't lose sight on who you're doing it for. Because sometimes as business people, we get so caught up on the treadmill of like making things happen and chasing a metric of success, which is admirable, but we don't even know why we're running anymore. We've been running so long, so fast on this treadmill that we don't even know why we're running anymore. And I think it's important to question, why am I running? Why are you running? I don't know. I've just been running for 30 years.
I've been running for so long.
I've been running for so long. I can't stop. And the truth is, at the end of your life, will it be worth it? At the end of your life, what regrets would you have? And I have learned, and I would encourage, that in the pursuit of business, you don't neglect what's important. In the pursuit of success, you don't neglect what is important and truly meaningful. Because that is to know what's really important. To me, that's really real success.
Absolutely.
It's real success. Because
Absolutely.
all the accolades will fade. anything you achieve will fade. When you die, you will not take your millions or billions with you. The car, the Lamborghini, the house, the Ferrari, the golf clubs, your employee. I mean, none of that will go with you. Nothing will go with you other than your evolution and what you learned, your own consciousness, and all that you will leave behind, are the memories and the legacy of those you touched in your family and your loved ones. So, yeah, remember what's important. Remember what true success is.
Good advice, mindful advice, and beautiful tribute to your mom too, because that's thank you for sharing that. So we're here at the very tail end. Couple of reminders for everybody. If you are interested in connecting with Kute Blackson, I would encourage you go to his website, go to kuteblackson.com. You can book time with him. Again, wonderful website, lots of information there. Also, if you want to connect on a more personal level, Instagram.com/Kute Blackson. It's KUTEBLACKSON. So you can go there and connect. Any final thoughts that you want to take us out with?
I would love to also encourage people to get the book. You Are the One, which is all about purpose, the magic of surrender, which is also, my favorite book, actually.
I'll make sure and have links to that in the description.
But I think if people have been inspired, two things. Number one, I created a online course. It's 8 modules. It's been changing thousands of lives. At the beginning of the year, I was guided to gift it to the world for free, literally. Okay. You could go. It's all about gratitude. It's the 8 levels of gratitude, and I think as leaders and business people, in a world that can sometimes be hard and challenging, to be able to cultivate gratitude is a superpower. And when you learn how to harness gratitude, it will change your entire experience of life, even if life hasn't changed. So I'm gifting it to you. It's 8 videos, 8 modules. www.8levelsofgratitude.com. That's 8levelsofgratitude.com. The second gift is I'm doing and created a free masterclass that's been changing lives. If you want to take your business to the next level, manifest to the next level, www.manifestationmasterclassonline.com. It's free. It's a free masterclass I'm doing every week. Manifestationmasterclassonline.com. Check it out there. I would love to meet you. I do lots of live events and retreats that I'll be resuming in 2026.
Great. So I'll make sure and include those links as well. Thank you so much, so much for your time and your wisdom shared today. I appreciate you very much. If I could have you hang out for just a moment, and I'm going to go ahead and take us out. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to bring us to a close for this episode of the Leadership Toolkit. Amazing new friend, Kute Blackson. I would encourage you check out those websites he mentioned. He said 8levelsofgratitude.com and manifestationmasterclassonline.com. Make sure you check those out. I mean, it's free. As you can tell here, like, he had so much, just a wealth of knowledge and wisdom to share. It's awesome. So I got nothing else to say about it. A couple of things to remind everybody also. If you would, do me a favor. One of the ways that this show grows, share the show, throw some thumbs up on it. Most importantly, if you want to make an impact on someone, we want to grow people. We want to grow your leadership. We want to grow the people around you and make an impact on the people that are in your circle. So if there's somebody that Kute's message would impact, share it with them deliberately and specifically. Push this show out, share it out to them so that they have the opportunity to grow. So I thank you so much. Again, throw some thumbs up on it, share it. Let's trigger that algorithm. Until we speak next, everybody, thank you for tuning into the Leadership Toolkit, and I will see you next Wednesday, same time. Talk soon, everyone.